Hi, this is Jim Kelly. I'm hosting the June Zoom meeting for the Division 8. Unfortunately, I started the record button a little late in the process. I got too involved in talking with the guys before the actual meeting started. My apologies for that, but I still think there's a lot of useful information. Thank you.
My bipolar lead to my strip. So basically what I got a positive, negative on my single pole switch coming in to work to one side of my clip. On the other side, where I have the the one positive, one negative lead comes in and comes to this terminal here. So when we plug our Tortoise machine in, that's how easy it is. It's not, like I said, my camera does not really do justice to the red and the green, but you can kind of see when it transfers, you can kind of see a slight greenish hue on the bottom, red on top, green on top, red on bottom. And as it's hooked into 1 and 8, you do not have to use resistors with your LEDs because the Tortoise machine motor is a limited resistor. So it will take the extra voltage and amperage, and since the motor is a stalling motor, it's the resistor because the motor is stalling, so it's always pulling amperage and voltage. And any questions so far on the bipolar hookup?
Okay, guys, looks like Ray may be having a problem with his video link. Let's give him a minute here to try to recover. While he's doing that, we were looking at maybe doing a little show and tell. Does anybody have something they'd like to share with us?
Am I there?
Yeah, now you're back.
Okay. So I was afraid was going to start happening. Okay, what we got on the screen right now is a red and a green LED illustration. Basically, each LED here is pulling 2 volts from the 12 with their limiting resistor. With a bipolar LED, you're only pulling 2 volts total. So I can put a red with a bipolar LED, I can put a red and green in a control panel, and I can put a red and a green on a signal and pull 4 volts from a Tortoise machine, dropping the voltage down to 10. The Tortoise, some people think Tortoise machine runs a little slower, but that's part of the operations of your layout because that makes your train operators have to wait for a switch to throw. So that's one good thing I like about doing it this way. No, where did Zoom go? Sorry for the difficulties. Come on, let's go back to full screen. Okay. So is there any questions with this up to this point on the demonstration? If there's not, we'll go ahead and move to the first illustration of the crossover switch or a 2-wire setup. Nope. All right. Okay. Here is a double pole, double throw switch. The center ones will go to your torch machine or to your work, or some people bring the power into here and then crisscross and take a terminal and go out. Doesn't really matter. The way I have it wired is incoming comes in on this wire. The gray wire crosses from left to right. The yellow wire crosses from right to left. And the torch machine comes off the center. This will go into my torch machine. That's what supplies power to it. Same hookup as before, but this time I'm going to throw a relay in conjunction with the tortoise machine. So this plug here I'm plugging into here is to my relay. The positive lead comes off the here, goes to the heel on number 5, if you remember the drawing from the before, and it comes out on number 7 lead. So we'll make and break the relay on 5 and 7. I'm gonna plug in my tortoise machine, plug in from work. Oh. The right wires here. And then we're going to plug in my power to the switch. We're going to plug in our tortoise machine. And I don't know if y'all can see it or not.
Let's give him a minute. It looks like he's frozen again. Okay, guys, anybody got a show and tell they want to pop up and show us while we're waiting for Ray?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, Tom, we got you. Ray got froze up. Ray got froze up. So, do you have something you want to share, Tom? Have you got something you've been working on that you want to share with us?
So this is Dale. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, Dale.
So one of the questions I have, and forgive me, it's more of a newbie question, but I've always used like Kylo track and N scale or the Lionel switches. So I've heard a lot about the Tortoise switches. Can you tell me kind of the applications and scales of what these would do in your lab?
Yeah, it's really scale independent. it's of course Lionel has their own three rail switch, so you wouldn't use them there, but you can use them on narrow gauge. You can use them on HO, all the other gauges. What they do is they'll replace the snap mechanism that often the manufacturers put out. Okay, and the advantage there is that you don't hear that click, click, slap, slap every time you're throwing a switch. And it's, when you use one of those, it's almost instantaneous. With the Tortoise motor, you can see the arm move. It moves slow, and it adds a little more realism to the turnout. Okay, and a lot of people like that because when you come up to the switch, you have to actually wait for the switch. You know, and it adds a little time and a realism during an operation session. Okay, it looks like Ray's back online.
I'm back online. Let's see. I'm back online. Hold on. Okay. I got my phone on just in case we go blank again. Before I lost internet connection,
Okay, it looks like Ray's really struggling with his internet today. He was a little concerned about that last night when we kind of helped set this all up, get it ready. And you know how that is. Murphy always comes at the wrong time. So bear with him here a minute. Looks like we got motion again.
how about now? Can you hear me?
Yeah, we got you back.
Okay. I don't know what's happening in Pasadena, but what I was going to show y'all, we're going to throw a relay, and you can see a green indication, and the Tortoise machine is in that state. I'm going to throw the switch. Relay went out. Tortoise machine threw to the other position. And why I do use a relay in conjunction, I usually throw my frogs and sighting power through a relay, not through the contacts on a Tortoise machine. The reason why is a Tortoise machine, those 8 little strips that goes in, goes in to a little wiper board, like 8 fingers, and there's a contact that runs across those fingers. Well, if you're running your layout power, your track power through that contact, when it bridges between the fingers, there's a momentary short. So eventually over time, you'll burn the edges of the contacts off, so you won't get a true break system in your frogs. So that's why I've gone to relays and stuff like that. So before I lose internet service again, is there any questions to the group? Scott, you had a question. Am I still there?
Yeah, you're still here.
Okay.
I have a comment to make, and,
Sure.
and that's because there's double sets of contacts in there. If you notice, they're in the opposite state. So one side makes and one side breaks in the opposite direction. So you can use those double contacts to turn something on while you're turning something else off. So
Yes.
So I'm just trying to point out that the double wipers are in opposite states.
They are in opposite states, and also too, this is what James is talking about. When the Tortoise machine is one way, 3 and 4 is made, and 5 and 6 would be made. When it throws the other way, so you're always doing a flip-flop back and forth on your contacts. The contacts, according to Tortoise company, they can carry 4 to 5 amps across when those contacts are made. But but they can only handle 1 amp when it bridges across. So if you have a locomotive that's stalled on top of a Tortoise machine that's stalls halfway across, you're getting the 4 or 5 amps across a 1 amp contact on the edge is what they were talking about on the strip. Also, too, Tortoise recommends a 22 to 24 wire if you're going to solder 2 of them. So,
also, if you're going to solder to them directly, if you look closely at those pins, there's a pinhole in there that you can stick the wire through and then bend the tab. That gives you a good mechanical connection, and you're not relying on the solder then to hold it while you're trying to solder it.
Correct. So,
but I do recommend using those connectors. That's a lifesaver when you're trying to troubleshoot.
Yeah, the screw connectors from Cellulite, I bought the ones that they recommend, that Tortoise recommends, but they are a 10-pin connector. So you have to shim the connection. So right here, this like I said, this paperwork hasn't been updated. I don't know when was the last time it was updated by them, but they recommend a 10-pin printed circuit edge connector. You can find it in most distributors. 8 pins are harder to find. So that's what I'm saying. In the earlier days, when I first started using, you used a 10-pin, and then you put like, I think it was 5,000 square styrene in the corners, and that block those extra pins off, so your Tortoise machine wouldn't slide over one way or the other. Okay, that's it for me. If y'all got any questions.
Thank you very much, Ray. That was informative. I asked my questions on a break, but I really appreciate the information.
Yeah. Now, you can use, if you're using it's like snap relays, you don't have to use a Tortoise machine. You can do the same method by just doing the relays here, and then wiring those in, and you just make and break the contacts on your relay, and that will do the same thing, throwing your twin coil machines back and forth.
Ray, this is Phil. I had a question. Can you hear me all right?
I can hear you.
Yeah. Let's suppose that you had your turnout and you wanted to just do it manually. You didn't want to hook anything up to it, but you had a DCC where you had, you had your locomotive, you got your pin in it. Any special wiring if you don't want to use a switch machine?
Only consideration you have to do is if you're going to use power routing frogs or insulated frogs. If you use like a Pico, the electric frog Picos.
No, this particular thing this is a Bachmann thing, and I've got a Bachmann transformer. But I'm not going to use a switch machine on this particular switch. And I was just wondering, do I need to do any special wiring? It's DCC. I have a DCC transformer, and the locomotive is DCC.
Most time, no, because probably the frog is going to be dead. So it's going to be like an Atlas switch where the frog is dead. So you're going to run across it, and you're going to have a momentary dead spot, and the locomotive will pick up on the other side because the flywheels will carry it across.
That's what I thought, and it seems to me the frog is dead. But yeah, I just wanted to check, or I do have that dead spot in it.
But can you make it a live frog?
You can most time make those live frog by soldering a small gauge wire to it, but then you have to either put a relay or Pico sells a slide slide break contact that goes underneath the switch.
I thought maybe you could do it through the Tortoise.
You can do it through a Tortoise, but if you don't have a Tortoise, you're going to have to do it a manual, either a switch, putting a switch in and using the switch to throw the polarity through the frog.
Right.
You could also use what's called a frog juicer, which is an electronic board that does it for you automatically. I've used those. They're very nice, very convenient to have.
But yeah, like I said, I've been doing Tortoise wiring on module tables for 20 years. And I've gone from soldering straight to the Tortoise machines, using acid core solder, not realizing that it will melt the Tortoise machine apart, to using the edge connectors. And I prefer the edge connectors. Like I said, they are a little more expensive, but so is a Tortoise machine.
Yeah.
Now, when I first got using Tortoise machines, I could buy a single Tortoise machine for $9. Now they're up to like $24 for a single Tortoise machine. So you want to make sure you take care of your investment and thing. Also, too, when you at a train show and you see a bunch of used Tortoise machines and you don't know if they work or not, take you a 9-volt battery and then the little connector that goes on top that has the little power leads that comes off, and put you 2 little alligator clips on them. There you go. Scott's got a picture of one. Put you a set of alligator clips on the end of that. Plug your 9-volt battery in and touched it to 1 and 8. If the Tortoise machine moves, you got a good Tortoise machine. If the Tortoise machine doesn't move and the paper label is still good, sometimes you can send those back to Tortoise for repairs or replacement. Now, the one thing you have to worry about is this little green sticker right here. It has a date code. I'm trying to get it so y'all can see that date code. Tortoise machine warranties their machines for up to 8 years for craftsman mistakes, whatever, machine motor wears out, dies, whatever. If you abuse it, whatever the cost of repair plus $5 in shipping. So they are pretty good about their products. The one Tortoise machine I have that came off the module table, this one here, this particular machine was manufactured on using the date code 8809. So it was manufactured in 1988 in September is the date code. The first 2 digits is the year, and then the last is the month that's on it. So if I send this back to Tortoise, they're going to charge me probably what a new Tortoise machine would cost plus $5, because it's 30 some odd years old. And I'm sure I could probably, since the label is 8 off of it, what I'm gonna end up doing is taking these 4 screws out, and there's a center screw right here, take it apart. And most of the time, the motor inside gets dirt. As you can see how dirty this is. It'll get dirt and it won't make good contact. So most times you just go in there, blow them out, put a little conductive lube, put the screws back in, and you're nearly back up and running. Steve Sanford sent me a email, said he wasn't going to be able to attend a clinic, but if anybody was looking for used Tortoise machines to give him a contact, he has about 30 of them that he no longer needs. And he's tested them all, and they all work. So in the railroad community, you take down your layout or something like that, you can always sell the parts back to a fellow modeler. So that is a good sign. Good quality product. Well, that's it for me. We are looking for people to have can do a clinic on Zoom. Sorry for the internet interruptions over here in Pasadena for the drop in, drop out, but they're upgrading cell phone towers around here to get ready for the 5G network. So that's one of the things that's going on in here on my side of town. Also too, if anybody's got any show and tell, open up the format for show and tell. And one thing I got to say is in Galveston, BNSF has brung in more locomotives to the island for dead service. So if you haven't been to Galveston on Harborside Drive, there is a fleet of all kinds of BNSF engines. So get out, take pictures, see the world. That's all I got. Thank y'all gentlemen for attending. James, it's up to you.
Thank you, Ray. Appreciated that very much. Okay, let me address the group here. Again, my quick commercial. If you'd like to do a clinic, you see how casual we are. We're not looking for the professional. We're just looking for somebody that wants to share and enjoys the hobby. So let me know if you'd be interested in doing a clinic. And with that, I open the floor. If you've got something you'd like to share, you know, something from your layout, something around town about the trains, somewhere you've been, let's hear from you. Yeah, Don. Don, you're muted.
I was helping Chuck Lynn, and he didn't come up with the idea, but he uses mounted his tortoises to a piece of plywood and did that on the bench. And then when you go underneath the layout, which I did, I was the one underneath and everything, it's much easier than putting in the 4 screws on the tortoise and everything. The one thing I'll caution about is one time when I installed one of them, I didn't really, there were a couple of feeder wires underneath the piece of plywood, which was okay and everything. But with time and everything, the insulation on the wires cold flowed, and we had an intermittent short, and we had a devil of a time finding that problem. But it was, make sure you don't have any wires underneath it. But it's a quick, easy way to mount your tortoises. And I went down in Galveston when they shut down that layout down there. I took uninstalled over 200 tortoises from that layout.
I did a slightly different variation on that, Don. My table was on 4 inches of foam. So putting a tortoise under there with that longer fulcrum arm just wasn't feasible. So I mounted my tortoise on a 1/2-inch piece of plywood, and then I cut a notch into the top of the foam table and dropped it in from the top side, and you know, glued it in that way. That was a lifesaver for me on that one turnout that I had.
Well, his was very similar except from the bottom side, but you didn't have to do the 4 screws underneath the table.
Mm-hmm. I can see where that's a big help, because those little screws are tied up in there.
Yes.
Yeah, for foam construction, you can use the 3M two-sided mounting tape. That holds pretty good.
I've used mounting tape on a lot of little things under the table. Sometimes, depends on what you put it on. Sometimes it just won't stick more than a year. Sometimes you got to go back and replace the tape, but it is a good help too.
And the advantage of the mounting it to the plywood versus the double-sided tape is if you don't get your position right with the double-sided tape, you're stuck. And if you, with the plywood, it's easy to make an adjustment.
That is true.
Well,
What do you got there, Tom?
well, it's Ray's idea. I got tired of paying Plastruck for their vastly oversized hand railings for my in-scale petroleum platforms and scaffolding and all that. And so I got these packs of 12 phosphor bronze wires that are 8 inches long, I think, and 12 for $3 for 12. But it's still cheaper to. This is sort of in the middle of being. There's nine horizontal wires, and it's going to be three railings. They're about, like you say, about 6-7 inches long, and it's cheaper than the Plastruck, and it's more realistic. That's just almost exactly a 2-inch pipe in scale.
Very nice.
I'll cut them with scissors. Yeah, they're fun to make.
Go ahead, Scott.
I got a question on to Ray on these Tortoise switches. Do you ever replace the switch wire, the wire that goes up to the bottom of the switch, with a larger gauge in order to go through like 3-inch foam, or is that wire strong enough once you go a certain distance?
Looks like Ray's dropped out. I've had to replace that because of the distance, where you get too much bend in that wire that comes with the Tortoise motor. And I've gone to piano wire, which is much stouter and will let you use a much longer fulcrum. You have to be careful with what you cut that with, though, because it's such a hardened steel that if you're using your track snippers, you'll ruin them. You'll put a notch in them.
Yeah.
Don't ask me how I know.
I've got a dead pair over here, but I got these at Harbor Freight for like $3.
Oh, that's so good.
If I notch them, I thrash them.
Well, speaking of that, under the in-crowd freight tracks, we use phosphor bronze wires so that which is very stiff, so it wouldn't. So you wouldn't reach under the freight yards and to re-rail a car on the lower level and rip out the wiring on the upper level. But that's the way it is there in the back of Papa Ben's.
One more question. Y'all refer to these as stall motors. So is there electricity going to them all the time?
Yes, sir.
Does that cause them to burn up over time or overheat, or?
No, that's why they get the classification of what they call a stall motor. Normally, if you take a motor and you lock its shaft, then it begins to draw excessive current and overheat and burn up. But a stall motor is designed to be held in a steady state with current on it.
and it doesn't overheat.
No, it won't overheat. It's perfectly designed for that.
Okay. I've also seen people using RC remote control for making
Servos.
switches.
Yeah, little servo motors. Yeah. On my little cards that I'm building and designing here, I'm controlling servos with the intent that they'll be used for turnouts.
Okay. Can you control those with an Arduino?
Oh yes, that's what I'm using.
Okay.
Okay. And someday if you're interested, I'll show the code and the board and how I've done that. So, but the one disadvantage I think that the servo has is that you don't have the internal contacts like you have on a tortoise. So if you want to control your frog, or if you want to put an LED out there, you have to do it with a totally separate circuit. The advantage is they're a whole lot cheaper.
Mm-hmm.
I bought 10 of them for $12, $13, and about $3 for shipping cost. So in that respect, they're a lot cheaper.
Well, I've even seen where they've taken those kind of little contact switches, but usually they have like a little wheel on them or something, that they have it rigged where it would go hit one side or hit the other side.
Yeah, that works. That works. You just have to be
making
willing
your
to
own
do
tortoise switch.
Yeah, you just have to be willing to do it. I enjoy it myself, but I'm a controls freak. So so I'm heavy into the electrical side. So that's fun for me.
Well, on the Arduino, about the only thing I know about it is how to say the word. So I don't understand it. I don't know how to code it.
Okay. Last month we had a good introduction to it, and I put it up on YouTube on my site. I thought I sent an email out with that in there to the division, so I'll double check.
I think you did. I just need to watch it 4 or 5 times before it sinks in.
Yeah, to be honest, that was a good job done, but that's kind of a hands-on lesson. You know what I mean? Maybe when we get back into the community center, if everybody's willing to spend about $10-15 to get the materials, we can sit in the classroom and hands-on. I have an old saying that I was taught when I did instruction, and that was, I hear, I'm confused. I see, I understand. I do, I remember. So that, with the Zoom, you get to see and hear, so you get an understanding, but it's hard to get those neurons in the brain drilled down to the memory. So I think that's a good subject for the hands-on. And we've got a couple of instructors that are willing to come in and do those lessons, but not on Zoom. He wants to do them hands-on.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Ray's back.
Yeah, I've changed devices. So.
Hey.
Yeah, with the Arduino, you had to remember there's 2 states. This is like a relay. The relay is either on or it's off. The same way with Arduino. Whatever you're telling it to do is either going to turn that on or it's going to turn that off. Whatever you have tied to it. So it's just it's basically all it is the fundamental light switch. Basically all it is. That you can tell it what to do at any time.
Well, inside to control the servos, I use that on-off, okay? Mm-hmm. I get it in from JMRI, and, JMRI sees it as an on-off, either throw the switch or close the switch, okay? But when I get it in, once it's in there, then I hook up a pulse width modulator card to it, and then I use that on-off and tell the pulse width modulator card how many steps to move. Okay, in the logic, and it's not difficult. It's something that guys can pick up pretty quick. I don't make mystic code. Okay. A lot of guys like to see how much they can get done in one line of code. I'm not that way. I like to stretch it out so that somebody can read it and learn from it and understand it. So I've got
Tom,
go ahead.
Tom was trying to show us something, but he's muted.
Oh, Tom, you're muted again. Let me see if I can help him out. I don't even see him on the list here.
It's Amy.
There you go.
I'm Amy.
Yeah.
I'm using her laptop.
What you got blinking there, Tom?
Oh, this is, I think, lessons, experiment 6 on the Arduino. Maybe you can see the breadboard, and it's Uno. It's a Sans Smart. It's not an Arduino. It's brand X, but it's a good device. Fun and games. This is just it's a game.
Okay. Yeah, those are good lessons to learn from, but they do have practical applications in our hobby. They're quite handy.
Yeah, they should have a model railroad, a special model railroad work.
Well, I wrote one book. Maybe I'll write a second book.
Oh, that's right, you did.
Yeah. So maybe I'll write a second book on the cards that I've designed. But
yeah, Jim is an author. We should be promoting that.
It was fun. It was to gain points for my author for my model railroader certificate, master model railroad.
Yeah, MMR.
Mm-hmm.
A hard degree.
So I've got enough points there now to be able to turn that certificate in. I just got to do the paperwork.
Oh.
I've almost got my my dispatcher. I lack about 10 hours on a layout doing dispatching. I've got all the other requirements done, but I can't get to a layout. But we'll get it done someday.
Yep.
Gordon,
so Scott,
this is.
Huh?
You ain't
My
building
question?
anything?
What's that?
You're not building anything?
I'm still working on this railroad museum, Tower 17 or whatever. Started on the stairway area, which is a pain. I'm going to have to make all the little handrails and all that kind of stuff. And I need to get over there and take pictures of the interior to put pictures on the walls, and if there's a file cabinet or a desk or to do the interior. I had to make a whole new roof for it because the other one just started to concave on me. So this one's flatter and it's got a lot of detail on the soffit part of it. Put it down here. And I got, LEDs in the lights.
Yeah, you want to
I do have another Arduino question.
Okay.
Because what is the size of one? Is it like a pack of cards or?
Oh no, it's smaller than that. It's. Do you remember the Heath bars, the old candy bars, the Heath bars? It's about 1.25 inches by 2.5 inches.
Okay.
Okay. You could put it in the bottom of that building. You could hide it.
Okay, because that's what I'm looking to do is can the Arduino, say have a sliding door open up, then a light come on, and then maybe some movement inside, and maybe another light go into an office or something, and like somebody came to the building and did something.
Yes.
Gave the building some animation.
Yes, it can do that.
Okay. And can in controlling the servo, can you create a speed on that servo with the Arduino?
Yes. You can make it fast. You can make it slow. Yeah. That's the power of it. See, is that you get to do all those little things and see who just joined us. Okay, that was Jeffrey.
Because I was wanting to have like a forklift inside, maybe just moving something around or something, just some type of movement inside the structure.
Yeah, you can do that. You could do that with also with a DC motor and a string, you know, through a couple eyelets, so that you move that forklift back and forth. You could do that, or you could do it with probably with a servo too.
Okay.
It's very versatile. That's the power of when you get into these microcomputers, is that you get to change what they do. I can see your mind working on that,
Yeah.
Scott. You're coming up with all kinds of things.
Yeah, I come up with all these ideas. I just never follow through with them.
Well,
Like-
when we get out of this lockdown, or well, you and I could do it over these screens here. If you want to do a one-on-one and look a little bit deeper at them, I'd love to share it with you on how to do
Well,
it.
I've looked online and seen like Arduino starter kits, and I just don't know, okay, do I spend $50 on this starter kit to try to learn something, or, you know, am I just buying something that's, you know, I'm not going to use?
If you hunt around, you can get them down around $19. Okay, you don't have to spend $50 anymore.
But that's usually like a kit to say, you know, this is how you do this, you know, instructions that come with it.
Exactly. But see, when you do that, that $20 is a great learning experience because it gives you the hardware and you learn how to do those connections, right? And you get a variety of different sensors in them. You'll get a little servo unit in it. You'll get a motor driver in it. Of course, you get the LED exercises. A lot of them have a temperature and humidity sensor, so you can make a little thermometer for your house, you know. So you learn all the concepts, and it comes with the code already written, which for someone like you is valuable, almost priceless, because then you're not focusing on the keystrokes of how to do the code, but you get to look inside and read the code and see the flow of the logic, how it's entered. I get to understand how an if statement works and how a for statement works. It's all illustrated, and you get to just use it and go over it.
Mm-hmm.
Then you can go and say, I want to do this. And then you have a fundamental understanding of the instruction set. And then you can begin to write your own code and branch out. So it's a $20 investment that's pretty much worth it. Okay. And when you get done with it, pass it to somebody in the club for $10. Get half your money back.
And keep in mind too that if you got a high school kid in the neighborhood, they can probably help you out with it too.
Yeah, that's true. The younger they are, the more they don't know. You know, they just absorb it so quick. Yeah.
And also too, you have to get in there and get messy with it, because you learn from your mistakes.
Yeah, that hands-on experience, and you know, and because if you try to just do it from reading the book or watching the videos online, okay, you don't realize, oh, I put it in the wrong hole on the breadboard.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, the 5 volts is only here, and these two ends have always got to touch. You know, it sounds almost silly to say, but you've got to burn those neurons and get that down into the memory. It's like your multiplication table. You want to get it to where it comes back instantly. You know, when I say 2 times 4, everybody knows it's 16. You know, it's just that quick. It comes to you. You know, so the hands-on gives you that.
Mm-hmm.
There's also the point that you can buy, just the Arduino board, you can buy for as low as $5
Yeah.
at Micro Center.
Yeah.
So if you burn it out, you're not out much.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I buy them. What have I got? I got 35 of them right now that I've got installed on my boards. So, and I definitely, I went to China and bought them, you know, $3 a pop.
And like I said also too, I keep forgetting about the internet Walmart, because I'm surprised every day when I go on there what I find.
Yep. It's getting to be a good base for learning too. There's a lot of people out there now picking up the Arduino, because it's not just as in model trains, it's robotics using it. It's you know, a lot of different hobbies are picking up on it now and using it.
Yeah, that's what I was getting at with the high school kids. They're using it for robotics.
Yeah.
They're familiar with them.
Yeah.
So if you got a high school kid, they can help you out with the pieces that you don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. Next year I'll get more involved with the robotics club at Hog School. I got certified as a volunteer too late in the year. Their robotics season ended. So, but next year I'll get more involved. So.
That's good. So nobody has anything, no projects with all this time on their free hands. They have not done anything.
I've got a comment I'd like to make back on the music wire and everything. They do make special cutters, which won't be destroyed by using them. But the thing I like to do is just use an abrasive. Yeah, I like
Alignment
to use
cutters?
an abrasive wheel in my Dremel tool. It
Yeah,
just
that works.
makes real quick work of it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think another thing about that is that you get a long enough length that you can stick it up through the bottom without only having an 1/8 inch to work with. You can stick it up through that pinhole in the turnout, and then you can cut it off with your Dremel.
Yeah.
Also too, Micromart and Harbor Freight sells what they call a hard wire cutter.
Yes.
It's designed to cut music wire. If you buy it from Micromart, I think it's like $20. If you buy it from Harbor Freight, it's like $8 or $9.
It works on a shear cutter principle.
Yeah.
Yes. It's kind of what they call the electricians call them lobbers, and it doesn't shear. It kind of goes around and scores it like a hook, like a lobster.
Like this.
Yep, that's it right there. Tom's got one.
Yes, came from M&M. Remember them?
Yes, a long time ago.
Yeah.
And on the Tortoise machines, on the music wire, I recommend don't use the wire that is supplied to you. To me, it's always been too flimsy. So I'll normally go up to like a 32 or 35 thousandths music wire. That gives you a little bit better tension to hold the switch open. With the wire that comes in the package from them, that's about 28 gauge wire, and it's kind of flimsy, I would say. So I had more problems with the lighter gauge wire. That's why I've been going to 32 thousandths and 35 thousandths wire. Now in O scale, we've gone up to almost 40 thousandths just to hold the switches over, because the weight of the cars and the locomotives are heavier, and sometimes they'll pick the switch. With the heavier gauge wire, it won't pick the switch as bad.
And I'm assuming you have to re-drill that hole out. What wire to go through?
Basically, what I do on music, the 32 thousandths wire up to 35 thousandths wire will fit in the pre-existing hole. You don't have to do anything. To put the 40 thousandths wire in a Tortoise machine, what I generally will do will heat up the end of the wire. I'll take a small piece, heat it up, and just poke it into the plastic. That resizes it, melts it and resizes it, then bend it using the same template they have, and put the screw in. We haven't had any problems with it doing that way.
In the bend in the wire, you were saying like on the template, like I don't know, I guess it's about a half an inch up that you bend the wire up. Is that getting it away from the tortoise machine?
It basically bends kind of a fulcrum point. Yes, it bends the wire out and away from the tortoise machine. So if you look at a tortoise machine is kind of tapered. It's kind of skinny on the bottom and fatter towards the top where the motor is at. So you bend that little bend in it to kind of bring it more in alignment. Because if you put the fulcrum on, come off of the pivot point of the stall motor, your wire is kind of at I would say like a 80 degrees. It's not quite 90, so it's kind of stuffed out. So that's why you bend that little bend in it to get it back straight. So you go straight up into the hole.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know.
I have to install one to know what I'm doing.
I'm wondering about the 2 inches of foam on a Fremont module. If the tortoise has to go underneath the foam, and the turnout's on top of the foam, 2 inches above it. Is that a problem?
The only problem you're probably going to run into will be the hole, the size hole that you have to get the fulcrum right, because the length that they show on the thing is for, I would say, the average thickness of 3/4 inch plywood.
Yeah.
So if you extend, the rod up, your fulcrum is going to change too. Now, what some people I've seen done, and I haven't done it yet, is in 2-inch foam. What they do is route the foam out, and then route a hole big enough for a tortoise machine to drop through the top, mount it to a piece of 1/8 inch masonite or 1/8 inch plywood, insert the tortoise machine mounted and everything to that.
I got you.
That's what I did on my 4-inch foam.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh.
And that seems to, everybody I've seen do it hadn't had any problems doing it that way. It's kind of doing an insert to it.
I had no trouble doing it.
If it were to die, would you have to tear the whole track apart to get it out of there?
Well, basically, most people do not solder their switches in. Okay, the switches are on a layout are normally free floating. So that way, if you have a bad switch later on, you don't have to go in and unsolder everything. You just slide the track joiners back and pop the switch out.
Another thing that I've kind of learned from my experience is that when I put a switch in, you can buy the little sections of track, 1/2 inch, 1 inch, 2 inches in length, fixed length. I like to I call it a sacrificial piece. I put it in there, and that lets me solder up to the turnout, but not on the one end. And then I can just cut that piece out, and I know I can replace it because it's a standard size.
If you use 6 insulated joiners on your turnout, I think 7 wires you need to the turnout. But it's worth it maybe, because it's easy to cut the plastic to remove the turnout.
That's one way of doing it. You just have to make sure you got electrical.
Everything.
Yeah.
It's a lot of wires.
It can be. It depends, because, like I said, unless you're building your own switches, a commercial made switch now is up there around what, $18-20. So you start putting a lot of switches and starting having to solder to your switches and stuff and melting them and putting them out of gauge. It gets kind of expensive after a minute.
Yeah. Think about that.
So it is, like I said, the one good thing about the hobby and everything, you can ask questions and people tell you, oh, I did it this way, and this is what the problem I had. So make sure you ask questions, because like I said, the only way to do it is to get out there and make a mistake. I mean, that's the fastest way I've learned in most of everything I've done. Yeah, sometimes it gets expensive, but you learn what can happen. Sometimes that's the easiest thing to do. Okay, if I did this, that's like the first time I wired up a bipolar, wiring up two power relay wall warts together, doing this bipolar method. I'm going, this thing is going to short out. How can you put a positive and negative from one to a positive and tie them together? And it's like, and when I finally did it, and I go, okay, it didn't burn up. Why didn't it not burn up? That's when I started investigating. Go, well, because you have the polarity from each one counteracting it. So in some ways it works, some ways it don't. I have wired them up backwards and put positive, positive, negative, negative, and then try to short something out, and there goes 2 power supplies. So it's the same thing. It's like when we're doing decoder installations in DCC. Like I tell most people that's doing decoder installation, there's 2 types of people: those who have burned up the decoders and those who are going to burn up the decoders. And as soon as you step across the fence and burn one up and understand what you did, you'll never make that mistake again. But I'm trying to.
I have a question that not electronic related, but I'm about to use some Rustall on some NBWs and everything, and didn't know if anybody has had any experience using Rustall.
Don, tell me what that is. I don't think I've heard that term. What is?
It's 4 different chemicals. I haven't used it yet and everything. Scott, do you have some?
Yeah, I've never used it, but I've.
Let me ask you: is Rustall for metal or is it for plastic?
Is it reversing the writing?
No. Hold on. I'll grab the other product.
That will.
Yeah.
Is it showing it backwards to you?
No, it's readable.
Okay, it's backwards to me for some reason.
Yeah, it will
but
be
it's like
for
a
you.
Four-step process, and I'm assuming they're using a little plastic car there.
Okay.
It's,
So it's for plastic?
it says wood, plastic, metal, even paper. And it's just basically like 4 different shades of rust. You put them on in a certain order to.
Okay, so it's weathering. It's a weathering product.
Yeah, so I bought it years ago and never touched it. So another project. And then,
Go for it, Tom.
This is the product that I've got, Rustall, and it's got 4 different chemicals in the bottles. And says an easy-to-use, non-corrosive system for rusting plastic, metal, plaster, styrene, and even paper. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's it.
Never used this one either.
I guess yours are still in the bottle too, and haven't used it.
Yeah.
I guess maybe in the
like
future I can give a report on how it went.
There you go.
Yeah, I don't know what this one is, but I've got all kinds of rusty things around here. It's just an individual bottle of something.
Yeah.
And then I've got this stuff, these powders. Trying to see if it make it work.
Yeah, sample
Scott,
kit.
what's your preferred method?
This makes a hell of a mess. I mean, I don't know if that covered bridge that I did, I ended up getting the roof so dark that I couldn't get it back to a gray color. And I was also doing it the night before I had to turn it in, but along with my paperwork, right? I think Don suggested that I put a little bit of soot at the end of the where the train comes out of the covered bridge. Well, that little bit of soot ended up getting on the roof, so I said, well, got to give that a light coating, and then everything just went black from there. But the powders they can just get messy. Now they say you can put it with some isopropyl and mix it with that, and I've never done that before, because then I'm just kind of creating a paint out of it. But I guess I need to watch some YouTube videos on it to see how to work it.
Well, Scott and Don, you guys don't realize it, but you just did a clinic. See how simple it can be, right? It doesn't have to be all about the electricity or anything. Weathering's a great subject. So
yeah,
give it some thought. Maybe you want to expand and show us an example of how you did it.
How it made a mess.
Sure. The good thing is I'm on this side of the mess.
I'm one of those learning experiences, huh?
Yeah.
Scott, have you tried the pan pastels?
I've barely tried them. Jeffrey had them in a clinic once, and we opened one up, and I think I used it on a piece of wood or something, and it kind of got a gluiness to it. I enjoy working more with real wood than I do. God, I'm drawing a blank on what you call the plastic stuff. Styrene. For some reason, because you can paint the wood 2 different colors and glue it together, and then it doesn't bleed over. Where if you use it with styrene and you got 2 different colors and the glue gets near it, it will melt the paint, and your crystal line is now gone.
Just like the real world.
Yeah. I was playing with some stuff. I've got it downstairs, but something I saw on YouTube. This stuff is called Sculpey, and it's basic. It's a clay, and I've got the structure downstairs that I'm working on. But I basically took 2 1/4-inch square tube, or like this, and I put them the distance apart that I wanted the height of the wall, mixed that stuff up, put it in there, and took kind of like a rolling pin over it to create my wall thickness. And then I took some windows and doors, and you can kind of push them into that, and then take your X-Acto knife and cut it out. And then once you make that wall, you can stick it in the oven like 200 degrees for 15 minutes. I don't know the exact formula. And it will turn to rock, and then paint it. And it basically looks like a stucco wall. I probably need to go downstairs and get it. But in it, I had the stucco wall, and then I kind of cut out areas to make it look like rocks that they stuccoed over a stone wall.
Has anybody used the steel wool and vinegar method to make rust?
It is on my back porch right now, but I think I got the wrong kind of steel wool because it's not melting. It's like stainless steel wool or something, but it's creating a little bit of rust, but not like I had seen and anticipated it being.
Yeah, you have to get the steel wool that's non-treated. That's the key. If you got one of the steel wools that has the soap in it, it won't change very fast.
This doesn't have the soap, but it's got, it's just a stiffer, squirrelier type material that, you know, it's real. I think it even says it doesn't rust as well once I started reading the package when I got it home. It's rusting a little bit, and it's been on the back porch for about 2 weeks. So
Okay.
I figured I got the wrong steel wool.
Yep.
I think I got the stainless steel wool,
Yep.
and it's not rusting away.
To me, that's the best rust is that steel wool. I mean, because when you let the vinegar distill out and everything, and the rust that's left in there, you get different shades of rust in that. That's what surprised me when I did it the first time ago. I wasn't expecting all the different hues that you would get, and it, especially on wood and on styrene, it adheres better and blends better to me than the other stuff.
I've got a popsicle stick that I stir it with, and it looks like a rusty piece of steel. Because like you said, it's got all kinds of different shades to it. Do you let it go to the point where it turns into a powder, or do you still keep vinegar in there?
I let it go. Depends on what I'm doing. Most time, if I'm trying to do it like for dry brushing and stuff, I'll let it go all the way to powder. I'll let the vinegar distill out. It may take a month or two, depending on how much steel wool I pull in the vinegar. And then other times I'll leave just a little bit of vinegar once I get what I need, and then put a little distilled water in to stop the neutralization. So when I get to a certain color, then that's where I'll pull the steel wool out, then start letting it sun dry.
You know, the other thing I've done is using this stuff on Campbell's metal roofing. It's some nasty stuff, but it makes the best looking rusty roof I've ever seen.
Yep. Have you tried the lemons?
Lemons? Like yellow lemons?
The yellow lemons, Myers lemons on aluminum, especially on the, if you use a tinfoil, you can put that on it, and the acid out of the limes and lemons will eat it up too, and it's not as stinky.
How long does it take to do that?
Depends on how old and acidic your lemon is. Key limes work sometimes pretty good too.
So you just squeezing lemon juice on your roof, and it rusts away,
and let her go, and it'll start etching it and pitting it. Then you come back with, if you don't like the it won't turn rusty looking, but it'll give you the worn. Because if you look at a tin roof's got silver spots, rust spots, all kinds of different grains on it. So then you can kind of come back with your pan pastels or your chalks or your dry brush paint method and highlight those areas.
No, because usually the top of the ridges are still galvanized. It's in the bottom of the valleys that the rust is.
So you can get, like I said, there's even natural methods of doing the same thing.
Well, it's a hell of a lot less dangerous than what I was doing. I'd watched about 4 or 5 videos on it, and before I even attempted it, and everybody was out on their back porch doing it. I even have a stain on one of my pairs of tennis shoes from it.
Yeah.
Ended up dripping on my shoe. Luckily, it hit my shoe instead of me.
Dale.
Yes, sir.
You're from in the Beaumont area, correct?
No, I'm from Magnolia.
Oh, you're from Magnolia. Okay. So that's the first time seeing you. Are you new to the group?
So I'm new to this particular group. To be honest with you, I don't know. I moved from Ohio to Magnolia about 20 years ago, and I've always been into trains, but I've never really been into any clubs until recently. About a year ago, I had some work done in my house, and a guy named Mark was doing my drywall, and he found all my lino boxes in the garage. He's like, "You need to be coming to the Petticoat Junction." So I started going to that. And then with the Zoom clinics, I've been able to attend some of the LSR division stuff now. I was hoping to get into that anyway, but my daughter, my youngest, just graduated and she'll be going off to college. So things are about to happen for me. I have my other oldest kids both got places now, and they promised me they'll get the stuff out of my garage. So hopefully very soon I'll have an office with trains on the wall, maybe one going around the top, and then I'll be able to convert my garage into my O-gauge layout for my grandson. What I have in the works is a circus and a carnival theme, kind of a classic 3-rail conventional set. So I have the Lionel Ferris wheel, the scrambler ride, the swing ride, a bunch of the different park little booths that they have and stuff, and the pirate ship ride. And I'm looking to get the Coaster Dynamics roller coaster for O-gauge, and kind of add that with a bunch of Ringling Brothers, Barnum and Bailey stuff that I have, and little circus, horse, animations and stuff, the action car, that sort of thing, and hopefully maybe activate some of the do some animation somehow with like some of the horses and elephants, and the master of ceremonies, kind of mix it in with some music, something to get my grandson's 18 months, so if I can get him into it and the others come along, that'll be great. Then I've always been into Lionel, and I'm kind of looking at weathering techniques or fast track only because I have a lot of it, and so that's some of the videos I've been watching lately. And I've been deciding, I've been buying a lot more scale items recently, and so the decision to make is, do I use the existing track that I have, or do I change into Atlas or Ross or Gargraves? I was looking at kind of the MTH scale tracks, but with the announcement, I kind of backed away from that decision because it's track's a major purchase. But for me, I've been more of a toy train operator. I've always liked that stuff, and now I'm kind of leaning into the scale. So I could share a recent purchase that I got in February if anyone's interested.
Go for it.
Let me see here.
Also, Dale, let me mention that here in Houston, there's the Houston HTOS, Houston Toy Tin Plate Association. They're Lionel 3-rail. They have a website. Okay, you might want to look them up because there are a lot of friends there that modeling the same thing you are.
Excellent.
Can I make a suggestion to Dale? Get some air conditioning in your garage.
Yeah, I plan on, I'm going to insulate it all, get an insulated garage door, and then, I don't think I have any insulation over the garage here, so I'm going to get that done and then add one of those Mitsubishi ductless AC units there.
Yeah, mini split.
And that'll be the plan.
I did that in my garage, and boy, it's wonderful.
But you can buy a kit to insulate your garage doors. Just basically styrofoam already cut to size, and you just use some liquid nails or something to glue it in place, and you can insulate your existing garage doors.
Nice. I may look into that. Save some money from working.
I saw that. I got if I was at Lowe's or Home Depot or something.
I got mine at Home Depot.
Because I was debating about just making my own panels to put in there.
Yeah, and also too, when you get ready to start this stuff, put out the word through the different organizations like us and Petticoat Junction that you're looking for help, and you'd be surprised how many people will show up to help you. So that way you're not having.
I just got to that point, and then this whole pandemic started where I was going to ask, I got a couple people interested to come over and see what I have and give me some ideas before I go too big. I've got some track layout plans that I wanted someone to kind of review to tell me what to do or not to do, because the thing you worry about is, accessibility for derailments, and I'm thinking too big, but, that's what I still want. I want 3 or 4 layers. I want like at least 4 to 5 trains operating at the same time.
Well, at least you got a plan. That's a good thing.
Well, I kind of joined up about 2 years ago, and I've learned so much, because prior to that, I was doing everything on my own and watching YouTube videos, and I can sit here and ask stupid questions and, usually get a smart answer back, or a smart ass answer, but
don't let Scott fool you.
There's a lot going on in his head. I have a hard time getting it out, though.
Yeah, Scott this year entered the first at a region convention, entered the first time and walked away with half a tree of plaques and awards. So when he says he's a novice, he's not a novice anymore. So what was your purchase, Dale?
I've been looking for the 2006 Lionel Hiawatha set. It was something that I didn't order when it was out, and anyhow, I had come across a listing that benefited the Whitney Railroad Museum in New Jersey, and I had traveled for business and been to that museum, so I went ahead and bought it from them with the wife's permission, of course. And so I have the Streamliner #3 command control, and then I got the 6 passenger cars for that. And then I was lucky enough to get the Station Sounds digital command control down car as well. So I'm pretty happy. I can share the pictures if right now this thing screen sharing is disabling, but that was the purchase that I was able to get in mid-February.
Hey,
So
hang
I was
on,
very happy with that.
hang on, Dale. Let me find you. I'll give you screen shareability. Yeah, I'll just make you a co-host for the minute. Should get a little pop-up, something that says co-host.
There we are.
I have that in HO scale. It's got the ribs. I'm looking for the rib cars.
Yeah, so I don't know how well this is showing, but I was really happy with the detail. Got the LED lighting. You can, on each car, you can turn off the lighting or leave it on.
So you're going to have a pretty good size radius to run. Yeah, that's good.
If I remember right, the rib side cars were the 1948 Hiawatha.
Yep, I think so.
I've been looking for that in HO. I can't find it.
Wow. Almost wants to make me go to the line now.
Life would be easier at a larger scale.
Like when I first come across this in some books, looking at some pictures, not the catalogs, but a Morning Sun book that I have, I was just, I'd never seen that Streamliner before, and I was like, wow, that's just beautiful. And so it was on my watch list, and when I found it, I just had it.
So did you have to remodel the kitchen to get that?
Well, there were some concessions, but yeah, it worked out for my wife too.
John and Don.
Yes.
I'm fixing to kill you on that Chinese jigsaw puzzle you gave me. From Japan, that doggone Shay.
I wish I would have had it here. I had enough time that I might have started to do some of my resistant soldering on it.
Well, good. I'll send it to you.
Did you ever find the fourth truck?
Not yet. I think it's in one of the Ziploc baggies that you got to put together.
Yeah, you do have to put it together.
Okay.
Lots of putting together.
Yeah. So if you have this resisting soldering iron, guess where it's fixing to end up back at? But a good deal. But gentlemen, I have to go feed the wife. I hope y'all enjoyed the meeting. Sorry for the internet. I have not been having internet issues. Maybe we can do more of a live clinic later on and go back over the subject when we're together. But stay modeling, stay safe. Keep taking trains, bribing your wife to let you have more. That's why I bring all my stuff in a Walmart bag. It's easier to get it in the house. Y'all have a good time.
Take care, Ray.
All right, guys. With that, I'm going to shut her down.
Okay, goodbye, all.
Bye, Scott.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Don, bye.
Bye.